So I walk in the kitchen the other day, Sheri, and you and our two boys, our two youngest boys, both teenagers, are having a heated conversation. And my understanding, pardon?
Intense. I wouldn't say heated. It wasn't, yeah.
My understanding is that what you were talking about was the percentage of my problems that you were responsible for. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a previous conversation where someone said their partner was like 30% of their problems. And I said to that person, I think your partner should be 0% of your problems. Like they should be an asset. You shouldn't have issues, especially when they were young and just starting in the dating and like teens, 16 and 19. And they were like, oh yeah, well, all girlfriends are problems. There's a percentage of problems. And I was like, okay, so are you saying all partners or just all girls? So that's what spurred the conversation. And I said, well, what amount of percentage do you think I give problems to your dad?
And what did they say?
Like something like 60 or 65%. And I said, what? And they said, well, right now he's down there changing a couple of air filters on your car and trying to work on the refrigerator that's in the garage to, make you happy. And I was like,
somehow your fault.
But somehow that was my fault. And I said, well, let me just remind you, the air filters were going to just be like a longer time at the shop with the oil change and something that would be $50 versus maybe $150 at the
I'm not paying them to change an air filter.
Our listeners know that you're notoriously cheap and frugal, but you're also capable of doing it. So why would you not?
If you would stop breathing and driving your car, one of them was a cabin air filter. If you'd stop breathing when you drive, I bet that thing wouldn't get as dirty.
And then I said that the refrigerator in the garage basically is so it can hold extra food for you teen boys who don't want to go and get a gallon of milk all the time. And you want me to buy eggs in bulk. So you have plenty of eggs. So somehow that they seem to deem as a problem.
So you are 60 to 65% of my problems in their eyes.
Yeah.
I love that. So I like to take credit, whether I deserve it or not. So I walk in mid-conversation. I don't know what's going on.
You've not been privy to any of this previous conversation.
And they just asked me, Dad, what percentage of your problems is Mom responsible for? And what did I say, Sheri?
And he said, well, let's take into account, like, there's assets. There are things she does differently, but I don't find them problems. So when I think about all the benefits she brings, it's like -10.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't want to cook for you guys. So that is a huge asset. I don't want to grocery shop for you. So that's a huge asset. So then you said -10. And they somehow thought that I had slipped to a 10 or something. I don't know. But I was like, I think that you need to reconsider.
Way smart.
Well, and I said, I think you need to really reconsider what you think a relationship is.
The manosphere stuff is rubbing off on the whole generation. Even kids that grow up in, around us.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. Well, I'm glad that unprompted, I gave the right answer, which is usually not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. But got away with that one. That's good. You are 0% of my.
That's great.
And it does go negative.
You're being trained well.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm learning.
I'm learning. But I also said, well, maybe this is the difference between a teen and, a 54-year-old or 53-year-old male who works in this type of relationship and recovery program. But I said, you should really listen to us.
Yeah.
When it comes to this, your partner should be benefiting your life, not being problematic. There can be issues, but it shouldn't be a problem.
When we're not recording, I'll ask you what percentage of your problems I am responsible for.
I would say 2%.
I'm a little bit afraid. Oh, 2%?
2%.
Okay. You have thought of that, not surprisingly. The quarterly Ask Laura episode is coming right up on the Untoxicated podcast. Laura Hemmick is a licensed clinical social worker and mental health therapist. She works with adults, both individuals and couples, working through the impacts of anxiety, depression, ADHD, addiction, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, trauma, and relationship issues. What question, listener, do you want to ask a therapist if only you had a relationship with a therapist? Or maybe you have a therapist, but you want a second opinion about the one you have. Ask Laura. Please send your question via email to matt@soberandunashamed.com with Ask Laura in the subject. That's matt@soberandunashamed.com for Ask Laura. Sheri, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with the five love languages. On the one hand, I think that the 1992 book written by Dr. Gary Chapman does an outstanding job of identifying one of the biggest challenges we face in romantic relationships. That we think we're snowflakes, that when we partner up with other snowflakes, the fairy tale will be that we find an identical snowflake out there with all the same desires and likes and dislikes and communication styles and attitudes and political views and feelings about which way the toilet paper roll should function, which is over the top, by the way. And the idea that we're just going to find our matching snowflake, that is absolutely ludicrous. And so relationships are full of conflicts because no two snowflakes are alike. And Dr. Chapman's book is one of the best-selling relationship books of all time, maybe the best-selling, I don't know, millions and millions of copies. And there's a reason for that. We are all trying to understand why the person we have shacked up with thinks so differently from us. Is this just my partner that's messed up? Is it me that's messed up? Should I dump this loser and hold out for someone who thinks exactly like me? The five love languages, that gives us a tangible lesson on how we are different and practical advice on how to coexist and even like and love each other. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of positive there. On the other hand, though, you and I spend a lot of time talking about the absolute necessity for us humans to fill our own buckets. We have to be responsible for getting our own needs met and finding our own source of self-confidence. So despite its wild popularity, I do have some pushback about a book that is focused on meeting the needs of our partners for love. So I'm kind of torn. Mm-hmm. I think the subject is complex, like all things related to interpersonal relationships. And that's why I am thrilled to have an expert on both interpersonal relationships and also the five love languages joining us here on the Intoxicated podcast. Monica Tanner is a certified relationship life therapist, relational life therapist, and sex therapy practitioner. She's the author of Bad Marriage Advice and the host of the Secrets of Happily Ever After podcast. Her practice and publications are informed by her own 23 years of marriage and her childhood impacted by divorce. And I happen to know she's a fan of the five love languages, having just interviewed Dr. Gary Chapman on an episode of her Secrets of Happily Ever After that was published on February 24th. Monica Tanner, welcome to the Intoxicated podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with both of you.
Well, we're just thrilled to have you. Yeah. Loved listening to your conversation with Dr. Chapman. It was fantastic. But before we get into that, in our correspondence and our email back and forth, you mentioned that one of the things you work with clients on is rebuilding emotional intimacy and physical intimacy after addiction. Mm-hmm. I want you to respond to what we call the sex sequence, something we've learned from both the time I spent in grad school, but honestly, more from the couples we've met and from our own personal experience. The sex sequence suggests that rebuilding intimacy requires first a foundation of emotional safety. And on top of that, we can layer emotional intimacy. And then if that goes well, then we can start, hopefully getting into sexual intimacy in a way that feels mutually intimate. Certainly there are people like me, I've got my hand raised, that I don't need any of those two first steps. I'm ready to go. But for it to be a truly intimate experience, I've learned that emotional safety and emotional intimacy needs to come first. So in your work helping people rebuild intimacy after addiction, does that jive with your experience, or am I making too much of this kind of specific order of operations?
No, I mean, I think you have like a really specific point. If you're just talking about sex, I mean, just plain sex can happen I don't know that you need anything to just have sex, but if you want it to be intimate, connecting, healthy sex, yes, I do think those things are important. And I mean, basically what you're saying is, sex is one of the most vulnerable things that we can do with another human being if we choose to make it that way, right? And so you can't be critical of your partner or, unkind or feel disconnected from your partner outside of the bedroom and then go in the bedroom and have this connected sexual experience. And so I think that's basically what you're saying. The order is we have to create some safety, we have to create some trust and some repair in the relationship if we want to really enjoy our sexual relationship together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Yeah.
you also referred to yourself as having spontaneous sexual desire, which means if the wind blows, you're ready,
Yeah,
versus
that's me.
usually somebody with a spontaneous sexual desire is married to someone with a more responsive desire type, which means that yes, there has to be a few things in place before the responsive desire partner is going to feel that level of desire. And I think this is for a very important purpose. If you had two spontaneous sexual desire people married to each other, it would be very hard to get like the work of life done. I think they would just be having sex all the time.
It's like a rabbit hutch in
And
here.
if you exactly, and if you had two responsive desire types married to each other, you might not really get to have a lot of sex. And so, most of the time, you're going to have somebody with a responsive desire married to someone with a spontaneous desire, and you've got to learn how to navigate those differences
Hmm.
and
I like
appreciate
that.
them.
I like that you said as it relates to an intimate connection, you said if we choose to make it that way, if we choose to make sex be that way, an intimate connection, because I think a lot of our listeners can probably relate to maybe young adult, non-committed relationships where even the responsive desire partner was able to have, enjoyable, just kind of carefree sex because they weren't looking for that intimate connection in the moment. This was just, I'm young and we're out and we're partying and we're doing our thing. What's that? Hormones, right? But just because I think a lot of people beat themselves up or their partner beats them up because they say, gosh, when we didn't mean anything to each other back when we first met, this was free and easy. And now it's hard and heavy. But that has to do with the importance of the partnership, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, I still work with couples that they've been married for decades and sex is still not that intimate. I mean,
Mm.
they're one person is just fulfilling an obligation
Mhm.
or otherwise, right? So you can have a lot of unintimate sexual relations for whatever reason. But yeah, I think if you want to build a really intimate and special, pleasurable, mutually beneficial sexual relationship, there's a lot that goes into that. It is a little bit heavier.
Yeah. Well, and working through that is exactly the kind of thing that you do and why so many people seek and for good reason seek professional help.
Hmm.
I read in your bio that a lot of your work is informed by your childhood experience with divorce. I know when you and I first corresponded, that was in there.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate that on that for us? Is that like an attachment style thing?
Well, there's a lot of attachment in my early marriage. I was very anxiously attached, very a lot of abandonment issues, I think, surfaced. So I come from a long line of divorce. My grandparents divorced. My grandpa walked out on my grandma. I
Mm.
feel similarly, my parents' divorce was traumatic for me in that way. It felt like my dad left my mom, and then my mom left our family. She moved
Mm.
far away. And so I was left to live with my dad and my stepmom. And then eventually, when I was a little bit older, there was a situation, like kind of a custody battle between my parents, which effectively got me kicked out of my dad and my stepmom's home. So I did have a lot of this conditional, you have to earn love. There's not enough love. I came into my marriage with a lot of that baggage. And so when
Mm.
my husband, would be upset with me or, we would get into some sort of conflict or we didn't agree on something, I had a lot of fear. I was a massive fixer and I would really go into this anxious attachment, like he's going to leave me, he's going to leave me. And so,
Mm.
yeah, I did a lot of work on that.
Hmm.
And you mentioned being a massive fixer. That is a big part of the folks that we interact with, where one person has an addiction issue and the other one thinks if I just say the right words, if I beg properly, if I give enough sex, if I do the thing, I can stop the addiction and fix it. And so I'm wondering when you meet people like that, what's like is the first part of the learning curve to explain that no human can change another human and like that's not in the cards for you and something you had to learn personally, right?
Yeah, it's so painful. I mean, it's so painful to, go from this idea that I can control another person and how they feel about me or what they do, to realizing that you can only control yourself and that, yeah, that other person has to want to and be properly motivated. And there is typically an addiction, if you're talking about a sexual addiction or a substance addiction or even a behavioral addiction, doesn't have a lot to do with your partners. Usually it's something that happened long before that partner
Yeah.
was in the picture.
Like childhood trauma or some other kind of the ACEs, right? Adverse childhood experience is something. Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. We're all medicating something, and
Mhm.
figuring out that those underlying causes is really helpful. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. We're off to a great start. Let's go ahead and get into the love languages for our listeners who are among the very few who have not yet read or at least heard about the love languages in a practically significant way. The 5 love languages that's explained by Dr. Gary Chapman over 30 years ago are acts of service, receiving gifts, physical touch, quality time, and words of affirmation. And the idea, as I understand it, is that once we learn the love language or languages of our partners, we're better equipped to love our partners in that way. So to start, let's go around the room and talk about what our love languages are.
Ooh,
Monica, would you like to tell us first?
sure. Well, my love languages have changed over time. When I was a young mother, I was like, acts of service, please just change a diaper. Like anything you can do to help in this situation would just be amazing. But my primary love language has always been words of affirmation. I really, really appreciate when my husband take a moment, my kids, anyone can tell me like why they love me, what I've done to bless their life, what I'm doing well. Any type of feedback like that for me is life-giving and feels very loving. And I don't know if we're going to get into this later, but I'll tell you, uh, I love Gary Chapman. I love that he's put languages, he's put a very easy way to explain like our needs for love and affection and how that's shown. But I also think it doesn't have to come from your partner.
Okay. Great. We are going to get into that.
Okay, I'll let you guys tell your love languages before we go into that.
Okay, great. Sheri, would you like to go next?
Well, I think I have a tendency to.
First of all, let me say you would not be a good partner for Monica.
Because
Do
words
not
of
give out
affirmation.
compliments very well.
No, I am a terrible complimenter.
Or receiver. She
Or
doesn't receive
receiver.
them very well either.
Like I'm sort of like you. Like I don't need to hear the words. I need to see the action. Change a diaper, take the garbage, like go to the grocery store, something. So like acts of service have been mine, but also I think like you, it's changed over time. I used to really appreciate gift giving until I met Cheapo, and he is a terrible gift giver. So I don't want the gifts. I think if you he didn't buy this, but you come from a line of kind of bad gift givers.
Oh, yeah?
I've received a scale
Oh, yeah.
twice from my in-laws.
Ruined gift giving.
Exercise clothes from people. And I just don't feel that those are like appropriate gifts, even though they're cute. And
I don't think we can leave out the worst gift I ever gave you. You got to tell Monica.
Oh, was it? I don't know. There's been so many, hon. Was it?
So I'm a very organized person.
It was a 2-book set: how to clean practically everything and how to organize everything,
along with a Franklin planner. Do you remember the Franklin planner from way back in the day?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So those kind of squashed my desire to have gifts. So I feel like it has to be quality, thoughtful, occasional gifts. Like I used to say, oh, flowers would be nice. Well, every Friday I'd bring home a bouquet of flowers. We still have flowers from last Friday. I don't want them every Friday. It's like all or nothing.
I'm so organized, Monica, that I've got to like write it down on my calendar. And when Friday rolls back around, it's like flower time.
Or like, let's go out to dinner. Well, then it was like every Friday or Saturday night before kids.
I got some issues. Like,
so it just had to be this pattern of routine, which then kind of tainted the spontaneity and the generosity of that kind of went behind that quality time or the gifts. So acts of service. And then I do enjoy physical touch. And again, it doesn't have to be from your partner, like a good massage. I mean, my family, like we would tickle each other's back for relaxation, like that sort of stuff. My sister and my dad, he would always like tickle our backs before bed. So like that kind of, but I don't want the grab and go kind of touch. I mean, quality physical touch. But don't talk to me.
No.
Don't talk to me.
No,
and don't expect me to
not while you're chopping vegetables, the tap on your way through the kitchen.
Grab and go, yeah, no.
I learned that a long time ago. I never heard you call it grab and go, but I did learn that the hard way. Yeah.
So that's why I love the book, and I think it did us a world of good when we read it a long time ago, because it really highlighted just the differences in how we feel and receive that love. And I remember it also brought us a lot of challenges, because learning the words of affirmation when it was something I didn't grow up with and I don't receive them well, and I'm a suspicious person. So I was like, why are you buttering me up? What do you want?
Yeah.
But at least it was nice to know that.
And you are getting better. You are more
I
accepting of compliments.
And I think I throw a compliment out there a little bit better.
You do. Occasionally. Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah. As every relationship is.
Yeah.
I'm definitely physical touch, and we're like definitely primary, much secondarily is words of affirmation. I like to get a attaboy once in a while, but physical touch for me.
You don't mind the grab and go?
Well, like I don't do it anymore because I know.
But I mean, like if I were to come up and just like surprise you,
that would not be a problem.
That would not be a problem.
No.
Yeah.
You go for it anytime. Okay, great. So I think obviously I've driven the receiving gifts right out of you after almost 30 years together. But the acts of service, that's good because that's something I like to do. And so I think I don't know if it has to mesh, but that's not a stretch for me. I like to do things for you. That feels good to me. So that's good.
So that's not, pardon me, that's not 65% of the problems in your life,
no,
or me
you're not
coming
at all.
from your acts of service for me?
No, not at all. Monica, let's pry into your personal life. We talked about divorce in your childhood. Now let's talk about your marriage too. What are your husband's love languages, and how in sync are you two?
Well, like I said, mine is words of affirmation. My husband is in acts of service.
Okay.
100%, maybe a little bit of physical touch, but for sure his love language is acts of service. But here's what I find really interesting about this whole conversation, just listening to you banter back and forth at the beginning of the episode and then again now, is more importantly than understanding each other's love languages, I think, is that we teach each other how to treat each other. And I think what Dr. Gary Chapman did, which was so brilliant, is give this beautiful language and very organized, like you like, Matt, way of talking about this is what makes me feel loved. We have to teach our partner, here are the things that I like, here are the things that I don't like, here's how I feel loved, here's how I feel appreciated, here's, what you can do if you want to do something nice for me. It looks like this, not this, right? So the skill of making requests and teaching our partner about how our preferences and how we, feel loved by them is the value of the 5 love languages, not the 5 love languages themselves, because you guys made like 16 caveats on each of them. So it's not necessarily that like, thank you for giving us the 5 love languages. Now we know how to treat each other. It's you've given us a way to talk about the things that are important to us.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like a writing prompt. It's like, let's get into the conversation. Here's something you can start with, and then you can tweak it your way. I love that. Teach each other how to treat each other.
We also read the love languages for your children. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really good because we have 4 kids and they were all very different.
Did I read that?
I think that I summarized.
You summarized it for me?
Yeah. Kind of like pinpointed what I felt like each of the kids' like love languages were. And we tried to really focus on that during the nurturing, like our time together and alone together.
Well, that also fits very well with our early parenting experience, because I was one of these people who thinks it's just going to naturally happen and we're fine. We're good people. We'll raise great kids. And you were reading the books and learning the stuff and trying to educate yourself. And turns out you were right. No question about it. I flew by the seat of my pants way too much. And, we're dealing with some young adult trauma as a result. But
I wouldn't worry about that. I think that's okay. But a good relationship with each other and a good relationship with your children, I will die on this hill, is not going to happen by accident. So it's good that you were reading the books and, learning about how to help your children, because I think that's invaluable.
Monica, do you consider yourself a cycle breaker, having experienced the things you experienced and then been a parent?
1,000%. One of my favorite quotes from my mentor, Terry Real, is generational trauma will burn through generations like a fire in the forest until one person in one generation turns and faces the flame. I do feel like that is something that I have worked really hard to do. And I think my mom did a lot of it before me as well. So I think it's a beautiful synergy. I also don't think that you're going to get out of childhood unscathed. No matter how perfect your parents are and no matter how many cycles. I always say my kids are going to have trauma, but not the same trauma that I had.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting because our children resist following our lead in a very different way than I resisted following it's like I went hard left because I didn't want to be like him. And now our kids go hard right because they don't want to be like me. And I'm like, well, you're just going over where he was. I know you're not going to want to be there.
Right.
So, but yeah, you're right. But, and I also like that you give your mom some credit for the cycle breaking too, because I think we learn all these lessons later in life when it's kind of, to some degree, too late for our own kids. So then we can say, hey, how much of my advice do you want when you're raising your kids? And I'm going to try to do this in a way so that you don't think I'm butting in. It's a really delicate balance.
But it's never too late for your kids because it's not necessarily what you tell them or the advice you give them. It's what you show them. And even at a very, very old age, if you decide to break some cycles, they will experience it and see it. So whether they're young, teenagers, or adults, you breaking any type of cycle or looking at your trauma in any way, shape, or form will benefit them. I promise. It's never too late.
Well, I think it's impressive. We have someone we know whose mother is like 65-ish and has left the marriage and has really, really dug into her own recovery at that age, where I think there's a lot of people that think, oh, I'm too old at this age. Why bother making those changes? And to watch her daughters who are in their 40s, like witness the courage that her mom had to step out of the marriage, step into the hard work, that's just going to give them more courage to do the work in their relationships with the grandkids. I think that's really impressive. It's never too late
to deal with our stuff, for sure. That deserves respect at any age.
Yeah.
Monica, I have to say, I think something I'm learning that you and I have in common is that we're both kind of optimistic on the optimistic and positive side. I am feeling lighter just from the first few minutes of this conversation.
I love it.
You are a very positive influence. This is great.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
See how I also worked in a word of affirmation?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And now I'm taking credit for it.
I'm going to take that to the bank.
All right. Okay, because now we're going to present a situation that's a little more dire, a little more stressful. We work with a lot of people recovering from alcohol addiction, both the former drinkers, but then also the partners of the former drinkers. And a not uncommon scenario related to the love languages is where a drinker or a former drinker says to his partner, my love language is physical touch, and yet you withhold sex. And that's why I drink, or that's why I used to drink. Kind of laying that all at the feet of the partner. Are you familiar with that scenario, Monica? Is that something you've run across? And how would you handle that in a couples therapy session?
Well, that's very manipulative.
Yes.
I mean, we would definitely deal with that. But I think like the underlying big problem you have with that statement is that we don't make each other do anything. So any type of statement like, you don't do this for me, therefore I make this decision is just false. Like we have to deal with that misconception that, giving other people our power like that is just really, really ineffective. And that particular statement was so manipulative. But I think we have to, we have to learn how to meet our own needs, to care for ourselves. And so that the untangling of that enmeshed thought would be the first thing I would go for.
Yeah. And I think I want you to react to this too. I think it's having a healthy, intimate life, a healthy sex life is a reasonable expectation for someone in a romantic partnership, long-term romantic partnership.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's some nuance here. There's a difference between laying my drinking on at the feet of my partner and saying, this is your fault, as opposed to saying, that's over here, that's mine. I got to own that. I got to fix that. I got to deal with that. I got to recover from that. But also separately, one of the things that is making me not happy in our relationship or satisfied with our relationship is that we need to work on our intimate connection as well. So it's not an invalid idea that that intimacy needs to be a part of our ongoing relationship. It's just tying those together and laying blame that's the big problem there, right?
Yeah, it's that thought was super enmeshed.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I mean the biggest depending on the couple, who I would talk to first, like depending on, is she going to feel guilty hearing that statement, or is she going to just say, oh no, you take the alcohol problem, I'll handle the wanting to be close to you problem, but I'm going to just venture to say that him blaming her for his alcoholism is going to make her not really want to sleep with him. So I
Oh
mean, you
yeah.
can throw that in both directions, really, really effectively at each other, or you can both take back what is yours to deal with, right? And so, as a practitioner, untangling that, it's going to depend on the couple where I'm going to go first, but I've got to give the decision to drink to him and the decision of whether or not to be intimate to her, right?
Well, and you said something very interesting. I think you're right that just that accusation would make someone uninterested in being intimate with the person. But then also, they still might carry some of that guilt, right? Because these things probably corresponded on a timeline. The less sex we had, the more he drank, the less, like chicken or the egg-ish kind of a thing. And so you can probably not want sexy time and be very, very legitimately validated for that, but also carry some of the guilt, because that's a really nasty thing for someone to say to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that she wouldn't take the guilt, that she would, I would try to help her see that for
Yeah.
what it is, because certainly she's not responsible for his choices to drink or not to drink. It doesn't matter what she does. So, that's very much his decision making, doesn't have anything to do with her. But I'm interested because you probably deal with alcoholism a lot more than I do. But did have a couple recently where he, on his own accord, stopped drinking after years of alcoholism. And one of the things they struggled with in the marriage is he was like, since I've stopped drinking, this marriage isn't very much fun. Like, you're not very much fun. And so it was like a really hard, like he was taking ownership of that. Like he wasn't blaming it on her, but he was saying, I am struggling because when I was drinking, I was numbing out and not really, having to deal with some of the things that are difficult here. But now that I don't have that buffer, I'm realizing that this is work, that it's not fun, that, I'm not enjoying myself. And, what do I do about that? And so that was something we really had to look at between the two of them, but more him than her. But yeah.
Did she agree, or did she have pushback on this is not much fun? I'm really curious what her response would be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she was like, well, I mean, yeah, we don't do fun things. Like now that you're drinking or now that you're sober, we deal together with the challenges we've created in the marriage. So yeah, I mean, she was like, I think she had a good vantage point of it. She was like, yeah, marriage is not that fun all the time. Like we've got responsibilities, like we have to take care of these kids and we've got to make money and we've got like we do have a lot of responsibilities that now welcome to the party, right? I've been like all by myself carrying the weight of all this while you're, getting drunk every night. So yeah, I mean, I think there was like that, realization that like, I'm glad that you're a partner now, but you don't just get to like, now you get to see all the work that I've been doing while you were just drinking. So yeah, there was that acknowledgement, but I think too acknowledging that yeah, we haven't made date night a priority. We haven't, done fun hobbies together. We haven't, you've taken a lot of the energy and the resources of the marriage out here for a long time, and so we're going to have to recreate what is fun to us. And we're going to have to bring some of those resources back into how do we make this marriage fun for us. So I think she did a great job. But yeah, that was kind of hard and confusing because he was like,
Yeah.
I mean, when I was drinking all the time, it was fun.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like,
the other thing, yeah, the other thing that happens is when we start moving toward health, from not just sobriety, but actually doing the recovery work on both sides, we're just different people. And we have been shocked at the degree to which you've got to kind of reassess, hey, are we still compatible? Like, do we like each other? I'll never forget the moment when I realized Sheri loved me and she'll always love me. But it was like this epiphany. I was like, oh my God, you don't like me, do you? And she's like, no, I just kind of really don't. And so we had to say, well, is that fixable or not? And that's a big question when you're well into a marriage with kids.
Yeah. And I think so much of your time and energy in the sobriety phase is working on those issues with yourself, with the marriage. And I think that you do need to get to a point where you need to prioritize a date night, figure out what's fun for you now, set those intentions of having fun. Not every conversation needs to be so heavy. I mean, even if it's just as simple as like, maybe you don't have the energy, just watching a fun comedic movie together or, because I remember
I turn on something funny and just watch it.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't have another serious conversation. We already walked around with a cloud over us for many years with the addiction and the bad relationship. Now, every time we meet together, it's like, let's work on a resentment. Let's talk about this. Let's share our feelings. No, I just need to remember that you're fun. And that's what attracted me to you, was like, you had like this fun energy. You were a go-getter. Let's do something. So.
Oh, and also I had to get away from the grab and go. That was really what made you start to like me again. That was pretty.
That was gone a while before even drinking.
Monica, we're gonna come back in a minute to something you said earlier when you talked about how we are responsible for having our own needs met. You not only said it a while ago, but we kind of keep coming back to that. I want to dig in a little deeper, but first we want to tell our listeners about our sponsors. We are sponsored by SoberLink. SoberLink is the premier remote alcohol monitoring system, combining cutting-edge technology with compassionate design to support accountability in recovery and family law. It's the top-of-the-line handheld breathalyzer. Today, we are talking about the things we can do for our partners to strengthen our relationships after alcoholism. While I see a tremendous benefit offered by SoberLink to the former drinkers, in the context of this conversation, the question really is, what does SoberLink do for the partner? I encourage you to think of it in that context. Even if you don't think you need the accountability of SoberLink, maybe your partner does.
SoberLink is not just a handheld breathalyzer you can buy at the drugstore or on the internet, like a cheapy one that breaks or gives unreliable results. SoberLink's best-in-class service and product combination includes a built-in facial recognition and tamper-proof detection, expert in-house support, emailed daily, weekly, or monthly reporting that's count admissible in all 50 states and Canada, unlimited testing days, and scheduled testing to build accountability and trust. SoberLink is the right tool for verifying that our need for a sober partner and our need for a sober co-parent are being met. SoberLink provides accountability, peace of mind, and clarity to help us thrive.
Right now, SoberLink is offering Untoxicated podcast listeners a free offer ID valid for a $100 enrollment bonus. Go to soberlink.com/untoxicated.
Claim your offer ID for a $100 enrollment bonus. There's no commitment required to claim your offer ID while this promotion lasts. You can use your $100 enrollment bonus when you're ready to place your order. To claim your offer ID, you will only be asked to provide your name and email address. No other personal details, no commitment, and no credit card number. To claim your offer ID for your $100 enrollment bonus, please go to soberlink.com/untoxicated.
The Untoxicated podcast is part of a 501c3 nonprofit research organization.
We learn from you, our listeners, and especially our Shout Sobriety and Echoes of Recovery Think Tank participants. We share with you what we learn. It's a partnership. You are the student and the teacher. You get a sense of belonging. And there's nothing more important to our understanding about the impact of addiction and emotional abuse than hearing from you about your instincts.
We are trying to learn more about your experiences with emotional safety and the opposite of emotional safety, emotional abuse. What role do your instincts play in navigating that? Whether you're wondering if you have experienced emotional abuse in your relationship, or you're wondering if your own reactive behavior could be disrupting your family's sense of emotional safety, we have a confidential, easy-to-take survey ready to help you better understand what you've experienced. Our survey will only take a minute or two to complete, and as I said, we will hold your response in strict confidentiality.
Please go to untoxicatedsurvey.org to take the survey. As a thank you for participating in our research, we will share helpful resources, including a free ebook, and we will respond to you and share your feedback on your experiences.
We respond to each and every survey response directly and confidentially. We offer to meet with you, a 30-minute conversation that is absolutely free. We learn more about your situation, and if it feels like a good fit, we invite you to join us to learn and share and grow and evolve.
Free resources, including the free ebook, free feedback from us, and a free conversation with people who truly get it. Listen to your instincts and take our survey.
Please go to untoxicatedsurvey.org. All right, Monica, let's get back into it. When a relationship is in recovery from alcoholism, we believe that the couple needs to establish a scenario, environment that's emotionally safe, first of all. And God knows with alcoholism, whether it's, toxic yelling and screaming, or even the opposite of that, whether it's, like silent treatment and the person runs off and you can't find them for a week, whatever it is, none of that is emotionally safe. So creating consistent emotional safety is huge. And also processing those resentments and the traumas of the past. It's not for the benefit of me, the drinker, to rehash the past necessarily, but it's certainly for the benefit of the partner, the Sheri in this scenario, to be validated that the experiences you had are true. So emotional safety, resentment processing, but then each partner needs to be laser focused on their own individual recovery, both the drinker and the partner. And then hopefully look for opportunities for mutual connection as opposed to that glommy codependent stuff they experienced in activity. Enmeshment. Yes, your word, Monica, which I love. So when we talk about that, how do you overlay the love languages on top of that? This idea that I need to pay attention to what Sheri's needs are, to speak her love language, when really I need to focus on getting my own needs met and doing my own recovery work. Am I making it too confusing? Am I making it too hard?
No, I actually love this question because I think this is the heartbeat of healthy relationships, is healthy differentiation, which means that we are not independent, we're not dependent, but we are interdependent. A very healthy combination of independence and chosen dependence. So what that looks like with the overlay of the 5 love languages, as you would describe it, is it's really important in order to gain trust in the relationship. That this is really cool to think about all together, is I have a lot of trust that I know, or if I don't know, like immediately, I can get in touch with what it is I need and give it to myself. And I also know that when and that my husband does the same, but I also know when he has needs that I can help him with, that he's going to ask me, and vice versa. So what this looks like, and I'll tell you, this is like for a long time in my marriage, like I said, my love language has always been words of affirmation. Now here is the rub on this. I spend most of my time by myself at my house. My husband goes
Okay.
to work, my kids go to school, and I
Oh,
work from
right.
home. So I spend most of the day on my own. There is nobody that follows me around all day long and sees all the amazing things that I do. I
Okay.
I can do 6 loads of laundry and I can meal prep and I can make the grocery list and I can make appointments, doctor's appointments and whatever appointments for my kids. I can sign them up for camps. I can see clients. I can do podcast episodes. I literally accomplish so many things in a day. And I'm a big list maker. And you can look at my husband could come home and look at my what do I call this? My planner.
Planner.
You can look at my
Yeah.
planner.
Is it a Franklin planner
I
from the
like,
80s?
yes.
Maybe I gave that to you. Who knows?
It's actually a Jody Moore special. But anyways, yes. So you could probably look at my planner and get like an idea of some of the things I did today, but you'll never really know. Nobody follows me around and knows how awesome I am at changing laundry and working with clients and nailing podcast episodes, whatever, right? And so like forever, I was like waiting for my kids to come home and be like, Mom, you're so amazing. Thanks for making that doctor's appointment for me. Thanks for packing that snack for me. Thanks for, that's not, we're all parents here, right? Like that's ridiculous. My husband, very few and far between, is going to come home and be like, I bet you had a freaking amazing day where you just like got all your crap done. Right. He's not doing that either, right? And so I realized, man, I just need someone to pat me on the back sometimes and be like, whoa, you crushed that day, Monica. And guess who the best person to do that would be?
You.
Exactly, because I spent the whole day with myself and nobody else did. And so, what I started doing at night when I climb into bed is I'll like have this conversation with myself. I'm like, bro, you crushed that day. Like literally you washed all the uniforms before the kids needed them for their sporting events. You fed everyone before they had their activities. Also, you saw this client and this client and this client, and I believe you really helped them. And you recorded this podcast and you got this ready for this. And like, man, Monica, good job today. Like, nobody else spent the day with me. I did. And so, nobody else is going to give me like the kind of praise that I deserve, but me. And so, I give that to myself. Now, there was also a time in our marriage when we had young kids, and my husband would come home and he'd be like, what the hell happened here today, right? I had kids running around naked and the house was a mess and dinner wasn't ready. And I was like, and my husband was like, did anybody accomplish anything today? And
We all survived. That's
like
what I would
everyone's
say.
alive. What else do you want, bro?
That's number one.
So I asked my husband, I was like, after like a pattern of this, and I was like, dude, I really am a crappy mom. Like, what the hell? Like, he comes in and he's pointing out like everything that didn't get done. And so I finally was like, listen, love, here's what I would really appreciate. You can come home and be like, yeah, the house is a mess. The kids were running around naked. Like, what actually happened today? But before you launch into that, I would really appreciate if you could notice one positive thing. And what I did was I asked for what I needed and I trained my husband how to be like, you contribute negative 10% of my problems, right? Like I taught him how to treat me like as a favor to me. Could you please come in and point out one positive thing that you see? And then you can say whatever the heck you want. Okay. And that trained him to come in and be like, oh, it smells really good. I can tell that you've started dinner. Yep. Cool. All the children are alive. Way to go. Yep, I kept him alive, right? And so, like, that was good for him and it was good for me. And so, that is a great example of how we've integrated independence. I can give myself what I need at night. I spent the whole day with myself. I know exactly the compliments that I need. I'm going to give them to myself. And I also asked my husband for support by, can you please give me one compliment before you launch into whatever else that you want to notice for the day? That is really good differentiation. And my husband can do the same with me. And so it's really important, I think, that we teach couples that your partner is not responsible for meeting your needs, for giving you the things that you need, but also they can be super supportive if you ask them and request for them to do certain things that, if quality time is the thing that you ask for that, right? Like give yourself what you need, but also be like, hey, I would love it if we could spend 20 minutes together every single day talking, downloading the day and talking about whatever, right? Like you can ask for the things that you need. You can also give yourself things that you need. Both. It's both and.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. There was so much of value in that. One of the things that we see with folks that are recovering from addiction, both sides, drinker and partner, their self-esteem is so beaten down. They've wallowed in shame for so long, and the need to build self-confidence is so high. And I am a believer in the saying that no one will ever be harder on us than we are to ourselves. So we deal with a ton of negative self-talk. So the fact that you have that conversation with yourself at night, that little pep talk, I'm sure that there are people that will hear that and say, "Oh, that's cheesy. That's corny."
Oh,
I
my
think it's
kids make
great.
fun of me all the time, and I'm like, "Wait until you're a mom. You're gonna do the same thing."
If they're lucky, they will, right? If they're not lucky, they'll wallow in the downside and
Why
beat
doesn't
themselves
anyone
up.
see all the good I do all day long for all the people that notice?
Yep.
Oh, that is so awesome. I think you're 100% right when it comes to getting our needs met, whether it's something that we get our needs met outside the home. And whenever you say getting your needs met outside the home, it sounds like I'm talking about infidelity. I'm not. Like my need for companionship. I talk a lot. I need someone to listen to me, and she doesn't always want to listen to me. Like,
or I'm at work and you're home all day by yourself.
Hence
No one
the need
sees
for a
it.
podcast.
Now I'm just gonna call Monica whenever I need to talk to somebody.
No one's here to listen. It's like a tree in the forest. Like no one
Did I even do anything today if nobody noticed?
But I love the idea of asking for it. I mean, I think a lot of our interpersonal relationship distress comes from, like, let's go back to sex, because I don't know, I like to like we hear from somebody, I laid there in bed and I waited and waited and waited for her to initiate, and I waited a night and a week and a month, and she just never did. Well, if you're not asking for what you need or communicating about that in some way, and also being receptive to being told no, I mean, that's part of this, isn't it? Whether it's sex or other needs. Sometimes if you've trained your husband to ask for what he needs, sometimes you can say no too, and he has to be okay with it, right?
Making a request is vulnerable, and that's why it's hard. It's much easier to complain about what your spouse is not doing or not giving you, or what's unfair about it, because that's not vulnerable, but it's also not very effective. So you can complain, which is like human nature. It's much easier for me to be like, my husband never does this. Or I can take a moment to go, what am I complaining about? What am I resentful about? Right? Resentful is a great indicator that something that you're not making something clear, or you're not getting something you need, or you feel like something's unfair. So listen to resentment. But if you're complaining a lot about something, take a moment and go, what is it that I'm complaining about? What is the longing, desire, or request that's underneath this complaint? What do I actually want? And what does that actually look like? And then I teach my couples the 3-step process for complaints. The first step is called remembering love. Who are we talking to? The person that we love and we live with. And why are we talking? Why are we making this request? Because we want to make things better for both of us. Because the alternative is resentment. I can walk around and complain and resent and be upset, or I can make this vulnerable request. So step 1 is remembering love. Step 2 is to be stupidly specific. Because here's what I hear all the time. My husband never helps around the house. Well, what does that look like? What do you actually want from him? Being stupidly specific means I would like my request is for you to be in charge of cleaning the kitchen 3 nights a week. What this looks like is clearing the dishes from the dinner table, taking them to the sink, washing the dishes, putting them in the dishwasher, wiping off the counter and the table, sweeping the floor, and taking out the garbage. That is cleaning up the kitchen after dinner. Now, 3 times a week. That is stupidly specific. Your partner can't like will or like they know exactly what you're asking them to do and if they can do it or not. Now, this could be a little bit of a negotiation. Like you could go the bonus round and be like, this is my request. What can I do to make this request easier for you? Or what can I make it more likely that you're going to come through for me here? And your spouse might be like, can you go take the kids and do bath time so the kitchen is, so that I have space in the kitchen to do all these things you asked. And then you have the opportunity to be like, yes, I can do that, or no, I cannot, right? So you might come into a little bit of a negotiation in step 2, which is good and important. And then step 3 is what most of us never do, which is so helpful. And that is to appreciate any progress towards the request. So let's say that next week, my partner did an amazing job cleaning the kitchen one night and he forgot to do it the other nights. I want you to appreciate that progress. Go to him and say, man, I noticed on Monday night, you were like a cleaning the kitchen superstar. You did all of the things required to clean the kitchen, and it was so helpful. And we were able to have this amazing family night together. And then I woke up the next morning, the kitchen was clean, and I was so grateful for you. Now, I know that that's a stretch because a lot of women are sitting there going, Monica, you shouldn't be cleaning the kitchen. You shouldn't have to like totally go over the top with appreciation. But why not? Like, what does that cost me to be like, hey, love, I really, really, really appreciate you cleaning the kitchen. That was awesome. Next week, can we do it actually 3 nights instead of just 1? You're going to get so much more of what you want if you can be appreciative and then keep fighting for what it is that you want. Don't drop it after he didn't do all quite 3 nights of it. Keep fighting for what it is that you want, lovingly and skillfully.
To me, 1 and 3 are very closely related. Remembering who this person is. This is the person that you've declared your love for, and that they're the most important person in your life. I think that's a huge piece of the emotional safety stuff we talk about. When you walk in the door from a bad day work and you start ranting and raving, and then you turn on the TV and you start yelling about politics on the TV screen, and you just raise the anxiety level in your house, you're not necessarily mad at your partner or your kids, but you're just stomping around. You've given the best side of yourself to all the people in the outside world who really at the end of the day don't matter. And then you've come home and you've dumped on all the people you love. So remembering love and then appreciating at the end, I think is so important. I love that. I love your positivity. Let me ask you about the middle piece though, the stupidly specific. If you scroll a little bit, if you get into kind of internet therapy or internet psychology, there's a lot of talk about mental load. Why should the woman have to carry the mental load? And I'm wondering if you ever get pushback from people that say, I shouldn't have to tell him how to clean the kitchen. If he doesn't know that, like that's on him. But
listen,
when do you do that?
Part of my request is, can you take the mental load of that 3 nights a week? You may have to train him how to do that. Like, that's not like a super far-fetched ask. If I'm in charge, if I care about how the kitchen is cleaned, then yeah, it is. But I want my husband to take on the mental load of that, like take responsibility for the full cleaning up the kitchen. I may have to explain to him what that looks like. So that's not saying that I'm always going to carry the mental load of getting the kitchen cleaned. But if I care about that and I know how I want that done, and I want him to take that over, there's going to be a period of handoff, right? Like where I have to train him, like, this is what cleaning the kitchen looks like to me, as a favor to me, because I know you love me and you care about this family and you want to be an equal contributor. Can you take this load off of me? Here's what I want it to look like.
Yeah. Well, and I think I love this. I love this conversation. God, I get so geeked up about the weeds. And how did Monica know, like, cleaning the kitchen is my thing? That's my other love language. I love cleaning the kitchen. I just wipe all the crumbs on the floor. I don't care about the floor at all, which I know that's not good.
But I want to add sweeping the floor to the cleaning of the kitchen.
But that's kind of part of what I'm saying here. I think part of this negotiation, if you will, has to be, what does this look like? Because you might have, these are the 9 steps to cleaning the kitchen, but your partner might say, listen, I want the sink cleared and the dishes in the dishwasher, and that's good for me. But you're having the conversation, right? Like, you're respecting each other's needs and desires and where the finish line is. Because you're not just born with the same finish line as far as what the clean kitchen looks like, right?
Yeah, the same requirements for what a clean kitchen. You're probably not going to have the same definition of what is a clean kitchen, right? So if you're asking your partner to do this, like this would be the helpful thing, the request that I'm making. This will help me feel like you are contributing to, because otherwise, like really, it's important to examine like what am I complaining about? What is the resentment here? What am I not getting that I need or want? And it's for the kitchen to be cleaned. Now, listen, the first couple I ever worked with, she was a food blogger. And so having the kitchen clean was really important to her, but she loved to make a mess in the kitchen. I mean, she was creating food and, nourishing the family and all of these things. But when they first got married, for her, she was like, listen, I will do all of the cooking, the food prep, I'll make sure that we're always eating healthy food and great food and all this stuff. But will you clean the kitchen? And when they first got married, that was a great arrangement. He's like, yep, you cook, I clean. Perfect. Okay. Well, as they started, getting into their marriage and having kids, and he worked in the school district. And so he, kind of got raises through the thing, and he eventually was a principal. And so he had lots of after school assignments and things. And so they got to a period in their marriage where she was still doing what she agreed to do, which was cooking for the kids and all of that stuff. But he would be home late at night sometimes, and then he wouldn't want to clean the kitchen. And so she was very resentful and upset. She's like, we made this agreement when we got married. I would cook, he would clean. He's not doing his part. It's really upsetting to her. And so she had this expectation of him, and he finally we worked through a lot of this, and she went and was like, I feel like really upset because you agreed to clean the kitchen and you're not doing it. And the circumstances of the marriage had changed, and he had a different schedule, and he didn't want to clean the kitchen. He was like, when I get home, I want to play with the kids. I want to be available. I want to relax for a second. I don't want to be on the hook for the kitchen. And as soon as he said that, she was like, oh, all right. How else can we get the kitchen cleaned? The kids were not quite old enough. Eventually, we're going to give the kids that job. The kids will have the job to clean the kitchen. That's a great thing for them to do. But they weren't quite old enough yet. And so she got really creative. Once he was off the hook for that, she got creative, and she's like, there's a teenager down the road that I can pay $3 a night to come and clean up the kitchen, like exactly the way I want her to do it. And then we both get to hang out with the kids and spend family time together, put the kids to bed together. And then we have some time together, the two of us, where we're not exhausted and the kitchen's not looming over our head. But they couldn't solve that problem as long as she was really upset and feeling like it was his responsibility and he wasn't doing it. And so this is just the natural how we got to negotiate and renegotiate and divvy up the chores of the household. But when you're like, if you're resentful and you're like, have this expectation of your partner and you're not communicating it and you're not defining what is the need here. The need isn't that my husband clean the kitchen. The need actually is the kitchen needs to be cleaned. How can we solve that problem? If you're trying to solve the problem of my husband's not cleaning the kitchen, you're going to run up against a brick wall every time. But if you're trying to solve the problem, the kitchen needs to be cleaned, there's lots of solutions.
Yeah. And a huge component of finding the solution is that communication that in a long-term relationship, we just fall out of step with that sometimes.
Well, feeling good at it. And feeling and is safe. I think with a relationship that's coming out of addiction or is in the middle of addiction, you don't have that safety piece in place that allows you to express yourself. Also, going back into the beginning of this conversation, what kept kind of popping into my mind, asking things I need, the self-esteem, but like, I didn't even know what I needed sometimes in the addiction and in the early parts of addiction, because I didn't understand what I was missing because I had carried a lot of things on my own. I also didn't have the trust there. So I was a little nervous and apprehensive because if I said, can you clean the kitchen? But I wasn't stupidly specific, then there's a conversation that, well, that's not really how you load the dishwasher. You load it like this, and then there would be the defensiveness. So that emotional safety, vulnerability, asking for what you need, having the self-confidence and the self-worth to ask for what you need because you're deserving of that also plays a lot into that. And that's a piece in the post-addiction and recovery piece that I think a lot of people kind of don't understand how large and looming that really does feel to verbalize.
Yeah. It's a process and it's messy, and we're not going to get it right every time. We're not going to get the request right, and we're not going to get the response right. And, it's like, it's like the healthy couples aren't the ones who don't fall out of sync or don't, make mistakes or don't have conflict. The healthy couples are the ones who know how to repair. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like being willing to try and then try again and then try a different way and then try that one again and then, get some help when they need it.
Mm-hmm. Every relationship at one point or another is going to talk about loading the dishwasher, and it's really not going to be about loading the dishwasher. And figuring out how to navigate that, that is a sign of making progress. I have to say, Monica, I'm going to have to re-listen to this recording because I zoned for a second when you said a teenager willing to take $3 to clean the kitchen. You don't look nearly
That was
old
a long
enough.
time ago.
Yeah, adjusted for inflation, that's $72 now, but it's still great stuff. Let's end on this, because I can tell how aligned we are, but I just want to drive the point home because one of the things that I think happens when somebody just takes kind of the headline and doesn't read the full book or doesn't understand the deeper message being delivered by the concept of the 5 love languages, they can be weaponized. We've talked about ways they can be weaponized. Another way is if somebody's love language asks their partner to violate their own values, ask them to have behavior that's not aligned with their values. For instance, we talked a little bit about how Sheri's receiving gifts has kind of faded away. I am financially modest, shall we say. I value saving. I do value supporting charitable causes. But excessive gift giving just makes me feel icky. So if I was partnered up with somebody for whom receiving gifts and elaborate gifts was a big deal, that would be problematic. Another example would be someone for whom physical touch is the love language, and they potentially are more sexually adventurous than their partner. And the partner could be potentially asked to violate their behavioral values because they don't want to go there, So, and I would hate in a scenario like that for the person who is more adventurous to say, but the love languages say physical touch. You've got to give me this thing. I want to hear it in your own words. Does it mean that the couple is just not compatible? Are we concerned about using the love languages as a bludgeon? Do you ever see that? What are your words to people who might be hearing this and going, yeah, I used to do that. I like to get my own way. I use the love languages to get them.
Yeah, I've heard stories about the love languages being used as a bludgeon, but to me, like you said a lot of things that I would respond to in this about just being different than your partner and the importance of communication and really, really being curious. Because when we got married as well, this is so funny because my husband and I disagree on almost everything. I mean, I think it's a great aspect of our relationship. We're very passionate. We're both very passionate about different things, and that makes our relationship passionate. But navigating those differences makes our relationship very intimate. And so how you turn differences into strengths is by getting curious, by being willing to be vulnerable, by creating a safe space in your relationship to be curious and vulnerable. And so I think about differences like money, spending money. To me, I thought vacation looked a certain way, and you spend a certain amount of money on vacation, and this is, what money is for. And my husband had a very different idea about money. My husband is also a very good saver. And I wouldn't say that I'm a spender. but I spend more money than he does. Okay. And so part of the dynamic about making it so great, like such a benefit to us, is that I understand now so much of what made my husband who he is today, right? I talk a lot about where he got his money stories from, his ideas, like why certain things are so valuable and important to him. But before, so I was going to tell a story. We took a trip when we were younger married couple, right? And we were with two other couples. And it was like this trip, we were at an all-inclusive resort, and these two other couples wanted to go off resort to eat. And my husband was already like super irritated about this because he's like, we paid for the all-inclusive, dinner is included. They have all these restaurants on the resort. Why are we going to go pay for dinner off the resort?
Monica, that is an unimaginable request.
I'm sure
should not
nobody
give
can relate to this.
Ugh.
Anyways,
How could you even think that? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, right. We paid for a taxi to take us to this restaurant that was off resort. We paid for dinner at this resort. And then like the straw that like legit broke this camel's back is after dinner, we were walking in the cute little town, and these two other couples wanted to stop for frozen yogurt. And my husband was like, no. I will. We are at a resort that literally has like nonstop ice cream coming out of like the freaking ice cream machine at all times. I will not pay for frozen yogurt right now. And he just like, he didn't say any of that, but he was so mad. And I was like feeling awful because, one of the couples, they each got a frozen yogurt, and the other couple was like sharing their frozen yogurt. And I was in this place where I was like, I know if I order a frozen yogurt, my marriage might be over. And so we just like awkwardly sat in this yogurt shop with our friends who were eating yogurt. And I was so offended. I really was. I was like, why are you trying to kill the fun? Like, it's not like this is going to make us not be able to pay our mortgage when we get back. Like, I just was like, over frozen yogurt, come on.
Oh my God. That is
principle. It's the principle of the fact that you have this like more expensive place to go for all the food. So I appreciate and get that, but I am totally like in your camp, Monica. I would be like sitting there so awkward. Like, oh man, yeah, and feeling your pain of like,
and I feel
don't be the fun sponge, but also like, I understand his side of it.
I feel like your husband doesn't realize that he and I are best friends, or maybe we're brothers.
My husband is amazing. He's an amazing provider. I am so grateful for his gifts. But I at the time didn't understand like the depth of his experience in childhood, where he literally remembers splitting a Snickers bar 6 ways with his siblings, right? Like on a Saturday, their treat was like they go together, the 6 of them have to choose one candy bar, and they split it 6 ways because that's all they could afford, right? His mom would make wheat bread at the beginning of the week, and that's literally what they would eat all week long. They were poor.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding those things about my husband make me appreciate so much more how far he's come over to like my side of like, let's go on a fancy vacation and stay in a really nice resort and pay for all this really nice food, and I can understand why going off resort and spending all this money to him. But listen, because of my ideas about spending money, my husband and I have done some really, really cool things that he wouldn't have done on his own. Because of the way my husband thinks about money and saves money, we are very comfortable in retirement. And when I start having grandbabies real soon, I have a married son. And so when I become a grandma, no holds barred. There will be absolutely no limits on my spending for my grandkids. I will take them to get frozen yogurt 6 times a day if I want to. Okay. So because of his strengths, we have all this money for retirement. And because of my strengths, we've experienced all these things. And now when we go on vacation, they're so great. We do it the Tanner way. We spend money it's like a really cool collaboration of what I think is important, what he thinks is important. And we don't really have to guess. We kind of know, like, I know what makes him uncomfortable about spending money, and he knows what makes me sad about like not being able to spend money. And so like, we have a great time. We'll be in Hawaii next weekend. And we got to take this really cool vacation because of the money that we've both spent and saved. So that's how you take differences in the relationship and you learn how to value those differences. And how do our differences in the way we see these things differently make us who we are and make us like the individually who we are and the couple that we are, and create all of these awesome opportunities for us that we wouldn't have had on our own. And so that's how I like to think about those types of things.
Well, and the word you used earlier was curiosity. The only way that we can find those points of connection in the relationship that are healthy and mutually beneficial is not to go in with preconceived notions about how everything's got to be, but to actually be curious and understand each other's past, present, and even to some extent their future needs that need to be met, and who's responsible for meeting them, and how can we help each other along the way. Oh my gosh. I love your positivity. I love your positivity. This is so great. Hey, and Monica, I want to tell you one more thing. You nailed that podcast episode.
This one.
Yes.
Thank
you. Listeners, please check out Monica's valuable resources, her book titled Bad Marriage Advice and her Secrets of the Happily Ever After podcast. Did you hear something today, listener, that is valuable to you? Please support Stigma, the 501c3 organization that brings you the Untoxicated podcast. We know you're listening on your phone. Why not open that Venmo app and send a fully tax-deductible donation to @Matt-Salis with the last four digits 1412. $10 is great. That's @Matt-Salis, last four 1412, or go to supportuntoxicated.org to make an online donation. Thank you for listening to the Untoxicated podcast. You've got this, and we've got you.